Mike Damergis for the King, Scott Engel here for the Fantasy Sports Network for the Roto Experts at the Ballpark, live from Citi Field. But we're talking fantasy football, and let's start things off at the running back situation. Certainly a top 4 pick. Everybody had him. Jamaal Charles, horrible day in week 1, only 34 total yards.
Yep, 34 yards from scrimmage, Mike, and fantasy owners are already concerned about him. But I would say, don't be too concerned. A big part of the reason why he struggled was the lack of Dwayne Bowe, who was suspended for the first game. Really, there was nothing for the Chiefs downfield in terms of the passing game. Alex Smith was their leading rusher because nobody was open downfield. He actually had to scramble a lot. What the defense did, you give Ray Horton's defense a lot of credit, Mike. It's a defense that's transitioning from a 4-3 to a 3-4, but it was easy for them to defend the Chiefs. All their linebackers did was stay at home, spy on Jamaal Charles. Every time he tried to hit a crease, there were defenders there, and whenever he was out in the flat, they had somebody spying on him. But Dwayne Bowe comes back in week 2 against Denver. You know that Andy Reid is going to look at what's wrong. He's going to fix things. Jamaal Charles, terrific start at Denver in week 2. He's going to rebound. I'd also use him on weekly sites like Fantasy Aces and Star Fantasy Leagues. Not worried about Jamaal Charles. If you got a panicky owner in your league, trade for Jamaal Charles this week.
Okay, so let's not panic with Jamaal Charles, but I think we should panic if you have Tony Romo. That was a horrible performance. He did not look healthy. He was underthrowing the ball. It was not a good day for Tony Romo.
Well, I wouldn't panic about Tony Romo necessarily. Now, Tony Romo looks a lot like Brett Favre when things started to crumble during the portion of his Green Bay career, and he tried to carry too much on his shoulders. But football, Mike, as you know, it's a constant game of adjustments, going back and watching the film, dissecting what's wrong. And I think Romo's going to be more efficient this coming week. I think what the Dallas is going to do is get back to being more efficient, using that running game more, and not putting everything on Romo's shoulders. With that defense, Romo feels like he has to keep him in the game, but Dallas has to play time of possession, ball control. I think you'll be fine with Romo. I wouldn't worry too much about him.
And let's move to Baltimore, where big news came where the Ravens cut Ray Rice. Now everybody's scrambling to the waiver wire for Justin Forsett. Is he the player that could fill his shoes?
Well, by the time everybody sees this, Mike, everybody would have picked up Justin Forsett. For those people that did it, I wouldn't be, necessarily dancing in the street about this because Forsett has started in the league before, but he's not the kind of guy that's going to hold up over time. There are other guys that might still be out there on free agency that people are not thinking about. Some people might have actually cut Bernard Pierce, and if they did that, you got to pick him up, because he might get the job back at some point. But another guy that's definitely out there on free agency at any point in the week is rookie Lorenzo Taliaferro. Now, Gary Kubiak's running this offense. Taliaferro is a big back who runs downhill with some speed. He is great for this one cut-and-go offense. Sleeper, Lorenzo Taliaferro of the Ravens, could be starting in a few weeks. I don't think Justin Forsett's going to have the job over an extended period of time.
And we're here at Citi Field, so you spoke to a couple of players, in particular Kurt Nieuwenhuis, who had a question about the running back situation.
Yes, the Mets outfielder, like a lot of other Major League Baseball players, absolutely loves fantasy football. Had a question for me about Darren Sproles, and I also talked to him about his favorite team, the Denver Broncos. Kirk, does he draft with his heart?
I liked what I saw from Darren Sproles. Wondering if that's going to be a good role for him in Philly right there. What do you think the rest of the season?
Is it a PPR or non-PPR?
It's half PPR, half point per reception.
I think he's going to be very busy in that offense. Half-point PPR, not as valuable as a PPR, obviously, but I think the Eagles, a very powerful offense, going to get the ball in his hands a lot. I think, good flex player. Really depends on the matchup from week to week and how he's doing. It all depends on who your other choices are. Who else do you have at running back?
Well, we got Doug Martin and Adrian Peterson, and Pierre Thomas also.
Well, you got Pierre Thomas. It sounds like you know what you're doing in a half-point PPR. I prefer Thomas a lot over Sproles. Did you go into the draft thinking that, I wanted to target guys like Sproles and Thomas, knowing like it's a half-point PPR?
A little bit, yeah. I think that Sproles fell to us pretty late, and we liked him in that Philly offense. We wanted a piece of that offense, so we picked him up pretty late, but I think it was a good value pick.
Now, you're a Denver Broncos fan. Do you ever draft with your heart?
No, never. Can't. But yeah, definitely Denver Broncos fan through and through. But I love those guys, but they're so good now. They get picked real high. So Peyton's obviously, after the year he had last year, he got picked real high. Didn't fall to me in the second round. He was already picked. So and the other guys, I love the other guys too. But there's so many weapons in that offense that. Like Julius Thomas had 3 touchdowns, but nobody else scores fantasy points that week. So it's a great week for the Broncos, but not great if you're a Damergis Thomas owner.
Last one for you. What do you think of Monty Ball and Emmanuel Sanders watching the Broncos as much as you do?
I love Monty Ball. I knew right when he got drafted, I thought that was a great pickup for him. I thought that was being a Broncos fan. I loved it. Me and our bullpen catcher Racanello, both big Broncos fans. He's such a great goal line back that I think it's a perfect fit for that Denver offense.
Kirk, thanks a lot.
All right, you got it.
Well, that about wraps things up here from Citi Field. But first, where can the fans catch the Fantasy Sports Network?
Yes, FantasySportsNetwork.com. Tell your cable or satellite provider that you want the Fantasy Sports Network. If you're in the New York, New Jersey, Westchester area like this guy, Eastern Pennsylvania, Connecticut, catch us on Cablevision Channel 147. You can also stream the Fantasy Sports Network live on your Roku player. Check me out every weekday morning, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern with Adam Ronis, the Roto Experts in the Morning, SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio, simulcast on the Fantasy Sports Network. Bring your A game on the Fantasy Sports Network.
And can you tell Ronis to get a haircut and Nando to shave? He's the king. Scott Engel. I'm Mike Damergis.